John grows up in a house where violence is normal. His father is a short-tempered man who often beats his wife, and sometimes turns on John too. Every night the boy lives in fear, listening to shouting from the living room, the sound of plates smashing, and his mother crying in the dark. Growing up in a toxic home like that slowly warps John on the inside. It affects the way he sees the world, and it spills over into his friendships. Together with his older brother Rory, he starts hanging out with troubled kids. They cause trouble in the neighborhood, get told to steal, and spend their time at a makeshift base camp in an old warehouse. To make him feel like part of the group, they even give John a tattoo behind his ear just like theirs. One night, his father comes home completely drunk. The argument that follows is even more brutal than usual. John watches his mother get beaten again and finally snaps. Desperate to protect her, he grabs a kitchen knife and stabs his own father. He does not do it out of hatred, but out of fear and a need to defend the only parent who ever showed him any love. The stab wound is not fatal, but it is enough to change John's life forever. Instead of being seen as a scared kid acting in self-defense, John is treated as the problem. His mother does not defend him. Even Rory stays silent. The adults decide that John is a danger to his own family, and he is sent away to a youth facility, a kind of rehabilitation home for troubled teenagers. There, he grows up hard-headed, angry, and unable to trust anyone. His whole life shifts in an instant. This is The Ride. Day after day, his new environment pulls him even deeper into darkness. Inside the facility, tensions between white and black kids are always simmering. John gravitates toward a white supremacist group where violence is presented as the only way to survive. In that world, he learns to hate others, to hate the system, and eventually to hate himself. While he is still locked inside, John receives the worst news of his life. His mother has died from a drug overdose. With that, the last piece of his old family is gone.
Your mom passed away. I am so sorry.
He is officially alone, and unless someone chooses to adopt him, he will stay in that place permanently. Time passes. John grows into a teenager who seems cold on the outside and rough around the edges. The hostility between black and white kids is still there, and he carries that anger with him everywhere he goes. Then one day, the staff at the home call him in and deliver unexpected news. A married couple wants to adopt him. John refuses outright, but the system gives him little choice. There will be a one-year trial period before the adoption becomes official, and whether he likes it or not, he has to go. He waits in a room to meet them. The couple is Eldridge and Mariana, an interracial couple. What really shocks John is that Eldridge is a black man. For a kid who has spent years inside a white supremacist mindset, that fact alone feels like an insult. He feels like the system is mocking him, forcing him to live with the kind of person he was taught to hate. John studies Eldridge closely, judging him in silence. He bombards him with questions, trying to find reasons not to trust him. Mariana can already sense that John is probably racist and deeply damaged. Eldridge, however, is calm and composed. He is well-educated, has a master's degree, and a good job. He is not what John expects him to be. At that meeting, John brings along a drawing he made. Mariana assumes it is some violent image that reflects his troubled past. Eldridge looks closer and recognizes it as a reference to a book, a sign that John is not just angry, but intelligent and observant.
This is good. Blinding it, Odysseus uses human intellect to overcome savagery and escape the cave.
In the end, John leaves with Eldridge and Mariana. After years of living without parents or a real home, he is forced into a brand new chapter of his life. When they arrive at the house, John still cannot accept it. He keeps questioning Eldridge in his mind, wondering how a black man can have such a comfortable life. When John first steps into the house, nothing feels right. The space doesn't feel like home, and the couple standing in front of him doesn't feel like family, especially Eldridge. Even though Eldridge treats him kindly and tries to be patient, John responds with a cold attitude. In his mind, skin color is still a wall he refuses to break down. At dinner, Eldridge tells him that he will be starting high school immediately since the new school year has already begun. The next morning, Mariana and Eldridge drive him to school. Before the car even reaches the front entrance, John decides he has seen enough and jumps out. As he walks across campus, he notices students obsessed with BMX bikes. In class, things get rough quickly. A student named Justin makes fun of him because of the clothes he is wearing. A fight almost breaks out, but the teacher's arrival stops it just in time. There is one person who doesn't treat him like an outsider, a girl named Sherry. She watches him with curiosity and concern. Before class starts, John slips out to the bathroom. By the end of the school day, chaos hits. Justin's bike and his friends' bikes have suddenly lost their tires. Everyone suspects John. Soon after, the police show up at Eldridge's house. With no proof besides teenage accusations, the officers eventually leave. Once they are gone, Eldridge goes to John's room and confronts him. He tells him he needs to stop acting childish and stop turning every conflict into a war. He warns him that if the police return, John will be sent back to the youth facility. The next morning on the ride to school, John shows embarrassment over being seen with a black adoptive father. Mariana calls him out for it. Thankfully, Eldridge, who has a sense of humor, manages to soften the moment before it turns into something worse. At school, John's connection with Sherry grows. She's a skater girl, confident and comfortable blending in with everyone. Because of her, John becomes curious about the BMX scene. He steals a BMX magazine from another student and later visits a skate park to watch riders in action. At home, John starts digging around for money wherever he can find it. Eventually, he wanders into Eldridge's office. The room reveals something he didn't expect. Eldridge used to be a successful wrestler with trophies and achievements displayed proudly. In the desk drawer, John finds a box filled with the old newspaper clippings. They tell the story of how Eldridge lost his chance at the Olympics because of an accusation of violence. Before John can read everything, Mariana catches him. She orders him out of the room before Eldridge returns. That night, Eldridge walks into John's room after 10. It's late and time to sleep, but John refuses to listen. The tension rises. Now that John knows part of Eldridge's past, he feels uneasy around him. Instead of getting angry, Eldridge shares a piece of his life. He explains that when he first came to the city, he worked 3 jobs just to afford school. It eventually led him to meeting Mariana. Before leaving, John asks why he was chosen for adoption. Eldridge gives a simple answer. Everyone deserves a second chance.
Why me?
Everybody deserves a second chance.
Right after stepping out of the room, Eldridge notices the open drawer and realizes exactly what John had been reading. A few days later, Eldridge walks into a BMX shop and buys a bike with his own money. One morning, he surprises John with it. Deep down, John is thrilled. This bike is exactly the kind of thing kids at school admire. But instead of showing gratitude, his pride kicks in. He accuses Eldridge of trying to buy his way into being a real father. Hearing that, Eldridge finally reaches his limit. He tells John that if he wanted to, he could break him down physically right here and now, but it would be pointless. Then he walks away, tired of the attitude and the walls John keeps putting up. Later that night, while Eldridge is working in his office, he hears noise outside. To his surprise, John is struggling to ride the bike. After all the boasting and coldness, the truth is simple. John never actually learned how to ride. On Sunday, Eldridge brings him outside and offers to teach him. As usual, John acts distant and defensive, refusing help just because Eldridge is black. But Eldridge keeps his patience. He tells John to drop the ego and reminds him that adults actually learn faster than kids. Then, step by step, he guides him through it. And just like that, something shifts. Within the same day, John is riding on his own for the very first time. Back at home, that small win turns into a bigger change. John starts helping Mariana prepare dinner. The next morning, instead of waiting for a ride, he bikes to school himself. Over the next days, he studies BMX tricks online and begins practicing. Soon, he can do more than just ride. He starts pulling off real moves and gaining confidence. Sherry notices the progress and invites him to practice at the skate park with other riders. With time, the bitterness begins to fade. His bond with Eldridge and Mariana grows softer, warmer, and for the first time in a long while, John starts feeling a sense of belonging. 3 months pass, and a lot has changed. John has been practicing nonstop and finally works up the confidence to invite Eldridge to watch him ride at the skate park. Eldridge agrees, and on the day of the plan, the two ride their bikes together toward the park like a real father and son. But when they arrive, things take a sharp turn. John comes face to face with Rory and the group he used to run with. Rory immediately tries to pull him back into that old life, pushing him to ditch everything and return to chaos. Eldridge steps in, trying to protect John and draw a boundary. At first, Rory seems willing to back off, but Jack refuses. Jack takes it further, throwing out a racial slur as a final push. The situation explodes. Eldridge is suddenly surrounded and attacked. Even though he is strong enough to fight back, Jack blindsides him with a hit to the back of the head, leaving him badly hurt. The group walks away, taking John's bike with them as if it's proof they still own him. Eldridge is rushed to the hospital and the weight of everything finally lands on John. Back home, he apologizes to Mariana and admits that he was the one who insisted Eldridge come with him that day. The moment opens a door Mariana hoped she would never need to revisit. She pulls out an old drawer and reveals the truth. Years ago, Eldridge was accused of assaulting a white woman. The accusation cost him everything. His scholarship was taken, he was kicked off his university wrestling team, and he lost his chance at the Olympics. In prison, the attacks were relentless, and the injuries he suffered left permanent consequences. One of them was the inability to have children. Mariana explains that despite all of that, despite the trauma and the judgment, Eldridge still chose John. Out of hundreds of files, he saw a kid who wasn't violent at heart, but a kid who acted out of fear when no one protected him. Hearing this breaks through the last layer of hatred John has been holding on to.
We looked at hundreds, and he chose yours. He saw kindness behind that hard exterior.
Driven by guilt, anger, and finally loyalty, John makes a decision. He heads straight to Jack's warehouse. He knows exactly where his bike is. While Jack rants about white supremacy to the others, John quietly slips in and takes his bike back. The group spots him and suddenly they're chasing him through the streets in their car. This time, John is faster, sharper, and determined. His BMX skills have become real, and he escapes. Later at school, the shift in him continues to show. He overhears Justin daring one of his friends to attempt a risky BMX trick down a long staircase. The friend refuses, so John steps forward and raises the stakes. The others expect him to crash, but he goes for it anyway. Even though he has never tried the move before, he rides forward with confidence, spins a full 360 in the air and lands it perfectly. The crowd erupts. A little while later, Eldridge finally comes home from the hospital. He is proud, not because John fought, but because John stood up for himself and took back the bike he was given. At the kitchen counter, John hands him a small gift to welcome him home. It is simple, but meaningful. A small plate with a black bird and a white bird together on it. A symbol of everything they have been trying to build. Later that night, Eldridge walks into John's room and asks him to stand. Then, without hesitation, he pulls him into a hug. For the first time in his life, John is held like a son. The moment breaks him, and he cries because he never had a father who embraced him like that. The next day at school, things take another unexpected turn. Sherry shows John something on her phone. His BMX trick from the day before has gone viral. Not only that, she sends the clip to Scott Carroll, one of the most respected names in the BMX world. Soon after, Scott reaches out to Sherry wanting to meet John in person. When they finally meet, Justin, who is part of Scott's team, doesn't think John belongs there. To him, John is just a kid who got lucky on one clip. So John does the only thing he can. He gets on his bike and shows what he can really do. Scott watches closely and eventually he sees it. Raw talent. Potential. Heart.
That was nice.
He invites John to train with the team. From that day forward, John has a purpose. He practices every day, pushing himself harder and gaining real skill. Slowly, his riding becomes more than a hobby. It becomes part of who he is. What John doesn't know is that Rory has been watching from a distance. Quietly, without interfering, he follows John's progress, not as a gang member, but as a brother. One afternoon, Eldridge drives John to practice. As they pull into the parking lot, John spots Rory heading toward the skate park. He gets out of the car and confronts him, and in that moment, he finally learns the truth. Rory isn't just a voice from his past, he is his blood brother. Not long after, Scott gathers the team and announces that he will choose 5 riders to compete in an upcoming championship. He starts the qualification right away, and the pressure hits John harder than anything before. His childhood trauma comes rushing back. All the memories of failure, all the times he was told he wasn't good enough. With the weight of expectation crushing him, John attempts his trick. In midair, he hesitates for just a second. That hesitation costs him everything, and he falls, losing his chance to qualify. Back at home, John spirals. He's furious with himself and convinced that he will never become anything, just like his father. Eldridge sees the frustration building and quietly steps in. He asks John to leave his room. At first, John assumes he's about to receive another life lesson, but instead there's someone waiting in the living room. It's Rory. John is shocked. He expects trouble, arguments, or pressure to return to his old lifestyle. But this time, Rory isn't here to pull him backward. He's here to apologize. Rory explains the truth. Years ago, he and their mother intentionally said John was dangerous. Not because they believed it, but because it was the only way to get him away from their abusive father.
They told us you're a danger to yourself and the family.
Rory!
It was the last request their mother ever made. Rory never expected John would suffer so badly in the rehabilitation center. Meanwhile, their father is now in prison and has no intention of ever leaving. Hearing this finally clears the fog John has been living under. The anger, confusion, and resentment begin to settle. Rory tells him he wants to be part of his life again, not as a bad influence, but as a brother who supports him and believes in his future. John feels like it's too late. He believes he already ruined his chance. But Rory reminds him who they were as kids. Back then, they didn't know the meaning of failure. Back then, nothing stopped them. And now that they're older, nothing should stop them again. That reminder wakes something up in John. Soon after, the two ride together and Rory teaches him tricks. Not for rebellion, but to help John prove himself to Scott. The next time John returns to the training arena, he doesn't hesitate. He shows everything he has learned. No falls, no fear. Scott is impressed, but there is one problem. His team is already full. John refuses to back down and negotiates. He tells Scott he knows his worth and that if Scott doesn't take him, he will still find a way to compete with another team. Scott recognizes the determination and finally welcomes him onto the roster. But as things begin to rise for John, danger begins moving again in the shadows. Elsewhere, Jack notices Rory hasn't returned as planned. Soon he hears rumors that Rory has been spending time with John and Eldridge. Jack feels betrayed and decides to retaliate. Meanwhile, John, Eldridge, and Rory are at home preparing his bike for the upcoming competition. After they finish, Rory leaves to head home. On the road, he spots Jack's car turning toward Eldridge's house. Immediately, Rory realizes something is about to happen and rushes to stop it. Jack and his group step out of the car with a Molotov cocktail ready to throw. Rory arrives just in time, tackling them before the firebomb can be used. Eldridge sees the commotion outside and tells Mariana to call the police. He and John run outside to help Rory, who is outnumbered and being beaten. The fight escalates and Rory is nearly killed, but Eldridge reaches him just in time and stops the attack. Police sirens finally approach and Jack flees. Rory is taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Through pain and exhaustion, he apologizes again. He admits that he should have been the one sent away years ago, not John. But now there is no more regret. He asks John to keep moving forward, go to the tournament, and make both of his families proud. He also promises to tell the police everything so John will never have to fear Jack or his gang again.
You have no idea how hard it was inside that house without you, man. I'm gonna tell the cops everything. You won't ever have to worry about Jack again.
The day before the big tournament, Eldridge drives John to the venue. They meet the main sponsor and watch other teams practicing. The competition is serious. The rival team is pushing advanced tricks and taking risks, so Scott tells his riders to step up their game and match that energy. During a break, Eldridge invites John to a nearby restaurant. John assumes it's just a quick meal before returning to practice, but there is a surprise waiting. Mariana is there along with the caseworker from the youth facility and even Sherry. Right there at that table, John learns the news. The adoption is official. Eldridge and Mariana didn't wait for the full year, they chose him now.
These are your official adoption papers.
We want you as our son.
From this moment forward, his wins, his failures, and his future are theirs to stand beside. The night becomes a celebration, not just of progress, but of family. The next day, the tournament begins. John is now facing professional riders and last year's champion, Larry Edgar. Larry goes first, performing a clean run that earns him a score of 90. Then it's John's turn. With confidence built from months of hard work, he rides into the course and performs his best tricks. When the judges announce his score, it's 89. For a newcomer, it's an incredible start. In the hospital, Rory watches the live stream and smiles. For the first time, he sees his brother becoming who he was always meant to be. Round 2 begins, and Larry raises the bar even higher, landing a new trick and earning a 94. John takes a breath, pushes forward, and delivers another strong performance. The crowd reacts, the judges are impressed, but on the final move, his bike slips out of his hands and he crashes hard. His shoulder hits the ground, and the pain is immediate. But despite the fall, the scores tie. If John cannot continue into the final round, Larry will win automatically. Scott is ready to pull him out, but Eldridge isn't. He has fought through pain before. 15 years of wrestling taught him how the body works, and he knows what John needs. With a careful adjustment and encouragement, the shoulder stabilizes. John is hurt, but he's not done. Now it all comes down to one last run. Larry goes first and lands a clean backflip. The crowd erupts. It's impressive and controlled. John rolls forward next. He's not just riding for a trophy, he's riding for Eldridge, for Rory, for the kid he used to be. With one deep breath, he launches into the final ramp and performs a bold backflip combo. The crowd explodes. The judges score. John wins. Time passes and life finally slows down. We last see him standing quietly at his mother's grave, a woman who lived in fear but whose final choices helped shape the path that saved her son. Now she can rest. And John, after everything, finally knows where he belongs. So the moral of the story is, if life keeps knocking you down, just get back on the bike and stop being a brat. Because you might land a backflip and a new family too.